Mission accomplished. 1:43:39 first half marathon in the books. Today's Building ROO episode is going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to break down what I did good, what I did okay, and what I can greatly improve on heading into the next race competition that I have coming up here in 13 weeks. Before we do that, I want to share a video. I recorded a few videos from yesterday, didn't realize that the audio was off on 90% of them. So I was going to put a recap or a vlog style video up, but this is the only clip that actually recorded audio out of the entire clip. So it only took like 5 clips. So this is the only clip that recorded audio. This was yesterday morning at 4:58 a.m. I had just gotten out of the shower, had my race gear here in my office, and I'm going to share this before we continue on today's episode of Building ROO. So enjoy. All right. It is the morning of the marathon. It's about 4:58 a.m. I just got out of the shower, got my race gear on the floor right here, got my bags packed, and I'm feeling pretty good. Now, I got a pretty good night's rest last night. Was the best night's sleep I've ever had? Probably not. But looking back and auditing the rest and how I'm feeling in the shower this morning, is as a competitor growing up, I definitely did a lot of things growing up, wrestling, competing, feeling a lot worse than I do right now. So if I was to enter every single wrestling tournament that I ever wrestled at, feeling as good as I feel right now, I would be pretty stoked about it. So I feel really good right now. My carbs, my nutrition was absolutely on point. Shout out to my dad at Prevail Coaching. He's done all of my nutrition. I've dropped about 5 pounds of actual fat during this preparation. We had some ups and downs that we had to go through, and I'm feeling really good. I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to start to fuel up. I got to get the kids up because I'm a dad. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of other people still to worry about other than myself. Thankfully, my wife is an absolute rock star, so she's got the kids on lock typically, but help with the kids and get there, get warmed up, and get the body moving this morning. So I know that a 1:45 is my goal time, and a 1:45 is a absolute stretch of what I feel that my fitness level is at this very moment. I feel I'm probably a 150 to 151 right now, so I'm going to have to literally run the race of my life and do something that I've never done before. I feel that I can do it. And I feel like that's the key thing in anything anybody ever accomplishes, is that there is a sense of what if, that I can, that I believe, and I feel that I can. And that's how I feel this morning waking up. I feel it's within my grasp. I'm not going to obsess over the number. I'm just going to show up. I'm going to keep my nerves calm. I'm stepping into a new arena. I feel uncomfortable. It's something new. It's exciting, but I know that I have to 100% fend off the adrenaline. I have to lean into my discipline. It's just like anything else in competing. These are all guarantees that you must do for you to be able to compete at the highest level. And I'm grateful that I can back on essentially 20 years of competition in my life to walk into something. Now, am I running 6-minute miles, 5-minute miles? No, but I'm pushing my fitness to the absolute brink of what it's capable of today. And that's all that matters when it comes to running. I am incredibly grateful for people that are watching this, and I'm excited to go out there and see what I can do today. So let's get it. All right, welcome back. As you can see, I had a goal in mind, I had a good mindset, and I executed well. I did run the race of my life. It obviously was a very first half marathon, but heading into yesterday's competition, I knew a 1:45 was an absolute stretch of where my fitness level was. I knew that I was going to have to lean on race adrenaline and just pure grit and determination to be able to hit those numbers. And so yesterday, going into the race, I had never ran consecutive race pace miles more than 3 consecutive miles in a row. I hurt my foot in the month of November. They thought that I had a stress fracture in my ankle on my foot. Wasn't confirmed because I never got an MRI done, but I could barely walk. I got on a peptide protocol, and through that peptide protocol, the healing process took about 4 to 5 weeks. I finally started to train, but my buildup was only 5 weeks ago did I really start to build up. I lost a lot of my fitness because I took 5 weeks off, and I'm a beginner runner. And so I didn't start committed running until August and September. And we're not talking they're not talking 3, 4 times a week. We're talking twice a week that then turned into kind of 3 times a week, but this is only a couple miles at a time. And so I did not have the base that I wanted to have in order to go into this race. And so with that being said, I came into this race a little bit underprepared, and I was healthier than I was anticipating though. And so I have a mentality and philosophy that I'd rather be a little underprepared, but healthy than overprepared and beat up and injured. And I'm going to rely on my grit, determination, and overall willpower to figure out a way to execute the task at hand versus being so beat up, torn up, and not even being able to bring yourself to the big show just because your body's not even in a position to do such. And so yesterday heading into the race, I woke up, you saw the video. During the warm up, my heart rate was really high. It was like in the 170s during the warm up, which is abnormally high for a very low intensity warm up. A race adrenaline was getting to me. The excitement of the race was getting to me. And so I was doing my best to manage heart rate in the morning. As I got to the starting line, my heart rate was still 148. I was in corral number 2. I wasn't in corral 1. I was in corral 2. I was standing there at a 148 heart rate. I took a couple deep breaths in. I closed my eyes just to manage some of the excitement, the nerves, and the adrenaline. I had to execute on the game plan that I'd set for myself. My goal for mile 1 was an 840. I know that is a very high number, and I probably will shave off that first mile, but that's a comfort zone for me because I know that if I ran an 840 mile, that I didn't come out the gates too fast, that I stayed disciplined, that I executed properly. I knew that if I executed my first 3 miles of the race, stayed within the means of the plan that I'd set for myself, an 840, then 850, then 810, if I stayed within those numbers, those parameters, that I had a chance yesterday, because I knew as the race was going to build on, historically speaking, I am a slow starter, and I get stronger as competition as my body gets into something. I find the competitive flow, and the athlete inside of me just finds a way to figure out what it takes to win or to execute on the task at hand. And so the race went a little like this. The beginning of the course, brutal. Thankfully, I was in my slower miles because I hadn't ran any hills up to the half marathon. And so where I live in Gilbert, it's super flat. I didn't make any commitment to go travel or run any hills or anything like that. And so I wasn't prepared at all for any elevation gain or changes. That was brutal in the very beginning. Thankfully, on the backside of that first 3 miles, there was a nice little downslope where I had a fairly decent little mile back, which was a 738 mile. And you could take a look at my mileage splits. Now, moving into miles 4, 5, and 6, I really settled into race pace. And so 4, 5, and 6, and I'll pull these up on the screen here so you could take a look at these as well. 4, 5, and 6, I ran a 739, a 748, a 759. Okay. So actually miles 1 was 838, mile 2, 811, mile 3, 813. So that really hit the markers exactly where I wanted to be. Mile 4, a bit faster than I had executed or wanted to plan for, or what I planned for. Mile 4, I ran a 739, mile 5, 748. And then this is where I settled in a bit. Mile 4, 739, 748, mile 6, 759, mile 7, 753, mile 8, 757. And then these next 2 miles is where most people completely bonk the race, and it's miles 9 and 10. Miles 9 and 10 were on the back half, on the way back of the slope going back towards the start of the race. And so those first hills, the first hill that we went over, we had to go back over those hills. And that hill almost broke me. There was a moment during that time of running up the hill that I said, I could really throw in the towel. I was right on race pace. Mile 10, I needed to be at a 120 to have the ability to hit to a 145. I was at 120.37. I was 37 seconds behind. So I knew that this hill was going to make or break. And then my decision on the back half of the hill for the rest of the race was going to make or break my ability to hit the number that I had set out to accomplish. Running up that hill, it almost snapped me in half. My back started to seize up. I've had 4 lower back surgeries, and I haven't had to run hills like that. So my back started to seize up. I had a conversation with myself at the top of what type of person that I wanted to be. And I was so sick of being so close to goals that I've set out for myself and just not getting them done, taking second place, taking third place, being just right there in the mix, but just coming up short. I'm so sick of that in my life that I decided at the top of the hill that that was not going to be the story. That wasn't going to be the story of this race. I made a commitment that that's not going to be the story of my life anymore. My follow through is going to improve. And even though, yeah, I ran a 145 or a 143, and it's not that impressive to most elite runners. But for me, my fitness level was a 152, 151. And so to stretch the fabric that much and to run a perfect race, I knew that the margin for error was very little. And I knew that I was going to have to dig deep inside myself. I was scared of a 145. That's why I set the number. I knew that it was possible, but I knew that I would have to do something that I've never done ever in my life. I've never ran 13.1 miles. I've never ran 8-minute miles consecutively. I've never ran 7-minute miles in the sevens consecutively. I've never done any of that ever. I knew that I would have to dig deep inside myself, do something that I've never done in order to accomplish something I've never gotten. And it scared me. A 145 scared me. And I knew that 145, although that it scared me, but I was capable of it. I had that belief. You saw it in the video. I had the belief that I could get it done. And so looking back now, I'm so grateful that I got on top of that hill and I had that conversation with myself and said, you know what? I'm so sick and tired, because I had to dig deep into my why. And if you're an athlete out there, if you're a competitor, you have to dig deep into your why. I wanted my kids to look back on this moment. I wanted the people around me in my business. I wanted people that are following this brand to say, man, like, yeah, you didn't run a 117 or a 120 or a sub 130. Okay, I know it's not impressive in terms of the time, but at least this person stretched the fabric of what they thought possible. So I'm super grateful for the race. I did not do a very good job in preparation leading up to this race of fueling myself properly during runs. I was never able to make my build in terms of run length long enough where I felt that I had to fuel during the runs. The top mileage that I was running was only 5-6 miles because I was essentially making sure that my ankle wasn't going to get flared up. So I never had the long mileage that normally I probably would have had leading up to the race. So I didn't really mess around with many gels or mid-run fueling, which maybe worked against me or worked for me in this instance. So working against me, what I did wrong here is I should have incorporated mid-run fueling much earlier in my runs, even though they're on shorter runs. I should have done it a mile in, mile and a half in. I should have tried different gels, different methodologies, etc., to get used to carb training my stomach and digestion and taking in those extra carbs and calories during the runs to be able to refuel the electrolytes as well as the carbs, getting that into the muscle as well. I should have done a better job of that regardless of the mileage length. So looking back, that is something that I will definitely improve on moving forward. The next thing that I'll improve on is during this process moving forward is finding other gels that actually are better suited for my gut, because I had gotten the honey stingers. I'm a big honey guy. I love honey in terms of a carbohydrate source, but I have the honey. That's the only gel that I used. And the one run that I used it on this last week in preparation for yesterday's race is it spiked my heart rate 20 beats per minute. And it made me super nauseous. And so that scared me from using any gels. So I didn't want to incorporate anything new into the race that I wasn't doing in training. With that being said, I was only running 6-7 miles tops. So I'm running double the length. How was I going to be prepared for a full length 13.1 or, race rather? Well, here's what I did well. What I did well was nutrition leading up to the race. My dad does all of my coaching. Shout out to Wayne Morgan and Prevail Coaching. I can leave his information down below if you're looking for a coach. He is absolutely phenomenal when it comes to nutrition and guidance around the nutrition space. Him and I set up a protocol. Obviously, I've been following his nutrition program for weeks leading up to this, but essentially we did a 2-day carb load, and it was on a lower end, about 450 carbs, and my body weight's about 175 pounds, give or take a couple pounds here or there. What we did very, very well was is setting up a structured plan and executing on that plan in terms of pre-race nutrition. Now, I've done plenty of research. I've looked at glycogen storage, threshold, etc., in terms of how much glycogen can you store in the body, how much is being depleted, how much that you need to replenish during runs. All elite runners obviously say you need to be replenishing during your runs. I knew that just based off of the science that in terms of my glycogen storage, what I had in my body, I was going to be very, very close on the threshold of energy sourcing and then how much I could essentially deplete, but still not fully be depleted or have a very short window of depletion and the very, very end of the race. So that was a gamble that I was willing to take because I wasn't willing to take the gamble of spiking my heart rate even more because I managed a 175 to 184 heart rate the entire race, which was incredibly high. And I did not want to give myself any nausea or anything that I wasn't used to that I had to fight through more than what I was already going through because I didn't want to have to add that on to the elements that I was already up against because there was already so many things that I was experiencing for the very first time. So if I was experiencing it physically for the first time, I didn't want to introduce something on top of that. And so I knew going into it with the pre-race nutrition and knowing that it was only a 13.1 mile race and looking at the science behind it, that I'd probably be on the threshold in terms of depletion of glycogen versus needing to do some form of fuel during my runs. Now, in the future, I'm 1000% going to be fueling during my runs, but moving forward, that's something that I'm going to be focused and committed to doing is carb training, learning how to utilize fueling during my runs and messing around, not even messing around, I hate that word, experimenting with a number of different gels and sources and things of that nature. And so wanted to share my race experience with you all. This is a longer video than these will typically be. These are all usually about 7 to 10 minutes long, but I wanted to share my race experience from start to finish. And then at the very, very end, let's go back just a second. At the very end on mile 13, right towards the end, the last quarter mile, I got to the top of the hill. I knew that I was going to cruise to 145, but if you look at my Strava or my Garmin, I absolutely sprinted. I ran the last 200 meters or a little bit more at a 5-minute mile pace. So that just was a mind over matter situation, sprinted to the finish and got it done. Was super excited to see my family. That was the ultimate medal. I got one of the medals behind me here, but to be honest with you, I've got a lot of medals in my wrestling career. I think they're in a box somewhere at my dad's house. They mean a little bit to me, but what's most important when it comes to competitions and doing these things is number one, executing on the goal. That's going to always be the number one thing. Is through this process, I ran so many mornings. About 95% of all of my training is done in the pitch dark by myself alone. And I had a lot of those moments and a lot of growth happening in that process. And I'm incredibly grateful for them. The outcome is just the cherry on top. The execution of the goals and the result is always going to be the cherry on top. The man I'm becoming because of the commitment that I'm making to myself, to my family, and to my future, that's what's going to be most important. So if you have a goal that you're moving forward with in your life, just know that that process, and everybody talks about it, that process is just as important as the product, meaning the result. And so the result, I got to kiss my wife and kids. My kids didn't give a dang shit that their dad just ran 13.1 miles. They were running around, hanging on me all yesterday, this morning. They don't really care that I'm tired. And that's the coolest thing about those kids, because in their eyes, I am just dad. Maybe one day they'll see me as a hero, but for now I'm dad. And that's the biggest accomplishment that I can ever say that I've ever achieved in my life, is being a father and a good husband. And then next would be a good man and good athlete, business owner. Those are all things that are going to be secondary and supplemental to the most important things in life. And so the biggest win of the day was my kids got to see their dad, even though they're probably too young to remember this, see their dad follow through on something that was hard, that was difficult, that took time, consistency, persistency. And I think that that's going to be the biggest message. If you have little eyes watching you, if you're a father, just know the result, the product is not necessarily the most important part of the process. It's the person you become in the means of such. Your kids are watching you. They're watching you even if you know it or not. And one day they want to aspire to be like you. Set the example, be the example, and ROO up. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll be back a week from now with some ROO updates. A lot of great things happening with the brand. I love every single person that joins in and watches these, and I trust that you have a phenomenal week. Saddle up.